Who was the Count of Saint Germain? A vampire? Perhaps even Dracula, or the wandering Jew Jesus cursed with immortality. Maybe he was an alchemist who discovered the Philosopher's Stone, or simply a wealthy adventurer who could spin a good tale. Voltaire called him, albeit tongue-in-cheek, the man who knows everything and does not die. And Horace Walpole said of him, he sings, plays violin wonderfully, composes, is mad, and not very sensible. Even without mysticism or immortality, the Count was a truly fascinating individual who rubbed elbows with the European elite of the 18th century. He was proficient in multiple languages, including, by some accounts, English, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Greek, Latin, Sanskrit, Arabic, and Chinese, among others, with the ability to speak and write. He composed numerous musical pieces, penned several works of literature, and he even claimed to be able to remove flaws from diamonds and transmutate metals. Yet, he is not a name that comes readily to mind as so much as his contemporaries, like Casanova, Mozart, Voltaire, all of whom he was acquainted with. Over the years, he went by many names before settling upon the Count of Saint Germain in the 1740s. He has been called Prince Rakuzi, Knight Showing, and the Marquis of Montferrat, among others. Yet his true origins are exceedingly murky. Sifting through the truth and the legend is no easy task. In addition to the outlandish claims the Count made about himself, such as being hundreds of years old and knowing the secrets of universal medicine, a comedian in Paris took to impersonating him in salons starting in the late 1740s. It is from here that the link between the Count of Saint Germain and Jesus most likely comes, along with the belief that he is thousands of years old, not just hundreds. Let's start with what we know is true. He first appeared in the public eye in 1743 when he was arrested in London under suspicions of being a spy. Later in that decade after his release, he was employed by King Louis XV of France to perform secret missions in England. By 1760, he took on a similar role with The Hague. In 1762, he was in Russia, where he took part in a conspiracy to place Catherine the Great on the throne. He also advised the commander of the Imperial Russian Army in their war with Turkey, helping lead them to victory. By 1774, he was back in France, where he allegedly warned King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette that the French Revolution would take place in 15 years. Finally, in 1779, he was in Hamburg, Germany, where he took up residence in Castle Eckernförde as a guest to Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel. It is here, according to local legend, that he passed away on February 27th, 1784. And did I mention that in almost every part of his life, he looked around the age of 45? Pretty good age, if I do say so myself. Even if this is the full extent of the story, you have a highly eccentric man who came seemingly out of nowhere, who had untold wealth and knowledge and became the advisor to kings and queens throughout Europe. That, of course, is not the full extent of the story. In the Comte de Saint Germain, The Secret of Kings, it is speculated that the Count was born in the 1690s, the son of Francis Rákóczi II, the Prince of Transylvania. Francis II's first son, Leopold George, was believed to have died at the age of 4, but it is theorized that he lived out his youth in exile to protect him from the Habsburg dynasty. This would account for his wealth and education, although the Count himself made this claim in 1779 to Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel. He made a lot of claims throughout his life. At one point, he said he was Simon Wolf, an Alsatian Jew, and at another point, he said he was a Spanish Jesuit named Amer. The Count was as mysterious in life as he is in death. That is, if he's dead, of course. Now, surely if he was around for hundreds of years, someone at some point would recognize him, right? Well, in 1760, Madame de Pompadour, the mistress of King Louis XV, threw a soiree at her home in Paris. Here, Countess von Gregory was astonished when she met the Count of Saint Germain. She asked him if he had a father who had been in Venice in 1710. He replied, "No, madam. But I myself was living in Venice at the end of the last and beginning of this century. I had the honor of paying you court then." "Forgive me, but that is impossible," the Countess exclaimed. "The Count de Saint Germain I knew in those days was at least 45 years old, and you, on the outside, are that age at present." Saint Germain just smiled knowingly. "Madam, I am very old." This, of course, would make the Count almost 100. The puzzled Countess exclaimed, to which the Count said, "That is not impossible." And he went on to outline in detail the prior meeting they had 50 years earlier. Now, the Countess herself was advanced in years and may have had memory issues. But that story, combined with the Count's claims, create an intriguing legend. Despite his reputed death in 1784, Anton Mesmer, the founder of mesmerism, claimed to know Saint Germain the following year. Some even claim that the Count taught Mesmer hypnotism. He was also a representative at a Freemason convention that year. And in fact, according to Alessandro Count de Cagliostro, it was the Count of Saint Germain that founded Freemasonry and initiated him into the rite. According to the memoirs of Albert Van Dam, he met Saint Germain in 1821. He wrote that he called himself Major Fraser, lived alone and never alluded to any family. Moreover, he was lavish with money throughout these, though the source of his fortune remained a mystery to everyone. He possessed a marvelous knowledge of all the countries of Europe at all periods in time. His memory was absolutely incredible. And curiously enough, he often gave his hearers the understanding that he had acquired his learning elsewhere than from books. Many is the time that he told me with a strange smile that he was certain that he had known Nero, had spoken with Dante, and so on. The most recent alleged appearance of the Count of Saint Germain came in 1972 when a man named Richard Chomfrey appeared on a French television show, allegedly turning lead into gold on a camp stove. Chomfrey was a French visual artist who had a passing resemblance to portraits of the Count of Saint Germain. Much like his 18th century counterpart, he claimed to be immortal and have a strong understanding of alchemy. He also claimed to remember his past lives, which, if he was immortal, I don't know how exactly that works, but I'm not immortal, so what do I know? In one recollection of a meeting with Richard Chalmfrey, Spanish reporter Jose Maria Inigo recounted how they had met at Chalmfrey's home and he sprinkled a powder on a dog's corpse. The dog suddenly came back to life and walked across the room before collapsing again, this time remaining dead. Jose does point out that at no point did he confirm that the dog was truly dead to begin with, or that he doesn't know what the powder was exactly. Chalmfrey himself sadly died by suicide in 1983. Maybe. If he truly was the immortal Count, then he may have just gone back into hiding. There are claims that Chalmfrey's body has never been found. Immortal or not, the Count of Saint Germain is a truly fascinating character from history, as was Richard Chalmfrey. Chalmfrey grew up in poverty, which led him to becoming a thief, which landed him in prison. It is here that it is suggested that he learned of the Count of Saint Germain and decided to use magic and mysticism to work his way into French high society through divination and psychic readings. Or the alternate theory, of course, is that he was, in fact, the immortal Count, and that he's gone back into hiding, waiting for his moment to return.